Might be live right now. Let's take a look. Are we live? Well, at this point, whether or not I'm live, I can assure you that most people I'm subscribed to are not live right now, which is good because, I don't want to cannibalize audiences or anything like that. First order of business is to update the thumbnail image for today's stream. And to do that, we're going to jump over to Adobe Photoshop. Actually, we're not going to jump to Photoshop yet. We're actually going to jump into an application called Upscale. And we're going to call this one The Late Show. And Show Gen. Motherfucker. Okay, so what we're doing here is I'm using an application called Upscale with a Y, A-Y-L. And this application is really cool because it's an AI upscaling tool, and I use the word AI very loosely because what people call AI, I wouldn't call it AI. But anyway, as you can see here, normally by default it uses this setting, but I have a funny feeling that digital art would probably be the better mode of operation here. We've already told it what folder to save the images to. So if I go to what was it, like, oh good, I actually know what folder my pictures go to this time. Good, so it's going to go to this folder. We'll minimize Photoshop, and let's see how well it does. Now it's going to take a picture of a super duper low resolution of 350 by 136. I mean, that is like that big. And it's going to upscale it to 1400 by 544, which is close enough to 1280 by 720 for my purposes. Give it a few seconds to process. Processing. And you can see here how, like, look at, like, that's how it was before. And I'm going to move the sliding horizontal thingamajig. And now it's higher resolution. And so this is what we're going to use in order to make this happen. I'm just double checking some settings here. I'm going to open up the chat real quick. Because, the sooner I have the chat opened up, the sooner I can ensure that messages are shown on screen, right? Good. I think we got that already, right? Good. We got the chat on all of my viewports, just the way I would prefer it. Only thing I learned was that if the chat updates while the window is not in the front, it doesn't update on the screen. Okay, so let's get back to my main viewport here and take a look. So, low resolution image, enlarged, it's going to look blurry at best, and you can see some pixelation. And certainly if I zoomed in on it enough, you'd see pixelation. But thanks to the magic, or thanks to the machine learning models used in order to train this AI utility, we now have some sharp lines. So it's sort of like, it makes sense how it works. I'm not going to get into the weeds of how I think it works, but it more or less works effectively. There are some imperfections, but, pretty minor, no big deal. All things considered, we now have sharp lettering, where before we had, like, blurry stuff. And I think this will be adequate for what I need it for. And let's open it up and verify that. And on my right side monitor, if I double click on it, yeah, I'd say it looks pretty good. Now, I did another stream a while ago where I used the Japanese book covers for the Hyperion Cantos. And there were some issues, like there were like some glitches, but overall it did a pretty good job. So now I'm going to open my window because it's hot in here. I heard people outside. I didn't want to make them, make fun of me for talking loudly. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna use that as our thumbnail. But before we do, we go into Photoshop. We're gonna delete this layer. I said I'm gonna delete it, didn't delete it. There we go. And we're gonna open up this image in Photoshop, and we're gonna utilize that as the basis of this artwork right here. Good. So this is a 1280 by 720 resolution. So I'm gonna have to do a little shrinking to it, and I gotta hold down the Shift key, but in this case, I'm gonna click on the lock button up there, so I could restrain it. I mean, we could resize it proportionally, constrain proportions, and that should be more or less adequate. And maybe we'll give it a background. But basically, or I could even plug maybe a city skyline below. Not that I give a shit about New York City skyline, no offense, but I just don't. When I was a kid, I would have thought it was cool. So anyway, it's kind of cool. Skyscrapers are kind of cool. Civilization is cool. It's good to have a civilized society. Who doesn't like a little civilization? So first thing I need to do before I make this my thumbnail is I need to get rid of David Letterman's name. I mean, I have nothing against the man, but I'm not David Letterman now, am I? And it does say late show. I need to like do something. Maybe it'll be half-assed, but I need to do something like duplicate the word late like 5 times, like 3 times, make it say late, late, late show. Now I have an idea. I noticed a color gradient here. So instead of using the solid color blue, I got a brilliant idea. Doggone it. Let's try that again. I have an idea. You know what they say about ideas? You can't kill an idea. That's what they said in the movie Ben-Hur. Whoops. You can't copy a layer that doesn't exist, but you can copy a layer that has things in it. So now here's the caveat here. We're going to need to, I have an idea. I have multiple ideas, but I have an idea in relation to, there we go. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this layer here. Whoops. I'm going to move it. So I tapped the letter V on my keyboard. I moved it up a little bit. I'm going to duplicate that layer. Basically, it's like my somewhat lazy, but not too lazy. I don't think it's the most lazy way to go about things here. To get our layers. Yeah, in fact, it looks fine. So what happened was originally I copied the gradient, or the horizontal. I tried copying down here, but you can see there's like a bit of a gradient down here. Okay, maybe it zoomed in a little too much. So yeah, initially I drew a box, but the box included, when I drew the box, it included this white area down here. So you see, like it looks like a light blue here, then it becomes a darkened blue. So that wouldn't have worked for what I'm trying to do. But because I copied an area that actually had a consistent color, because I think there might be, can't really tell, but I think there's a horizontal gradient here. Well, let's find out. Maybe there's not a horizontal gradient here. No, there is. There's a slight, I mean, look, it gets darker right over here. And so I didn't want to take my chances with the colors being darker on this end and lighter on this end. So that's why we copied a horizontal selection and then just kind of pasted it in a vertical fashion like we did here. So we got top layer, next layer, next, next, next. So it means that they'll be horizontally consistent, but not, vertically they'll be good. So now we press Control E And you can see what it does is it flattens the layer. So it's combining the highlighted layer with the one below it. I'm going to do it one more time. So now we have one layer, and that should be enough. So now we're going to turn on the David Letterman thing again. I'm going to see what happens if we move this up. Perfect. Well, not perfect, but let's try it again. So it's almost good. I wouldn't say perfect. And part of the reasoning for that is because apparently I missed that little part right there. But no big deal. I have a solution to that. Also, you can see how it's still not a perfect match. I mean, you can see a horizontal line there. Now, I thought about going for the no F's given move and just letting that be imperfect. But I'm kind of feeling like a little more inspired right now. And again, yeah, let's stick with the no F's given move. Why don't we? So we're going to take a eyedropper, a paintbrush. I'm going to use the brush tool. Oh, that gives me an idea. Another idea. I got many ideas today. I'm an idea man, I guess you could say. I mean, this is not like good Photoshop advice, I'll admit, but it's good getting it done expediently advice, all right? So we'll leave it at that, and we're just gonna try our best to half-assedly blend it. Don't quote me, all right? I'm just pressing the letter I. Wait a second. There's a better way to do this. It's not really the better way to do this, but I think it'll be more effective in this case. We're going to use the clone stamper. It's this little tool right here where you press the letter S. And the way the clone stamp works is you can see we already have a paintbrush, but it's got to clone a certain region of the screen. So we're going to press Alt. And when you're holding down Alt, you get a selection button. I'm going to press Alt. I'm going to click right here. Now, whatever I brush down there will be replicated. And it doesn't work as good as I thought it would work. So let's try that again. I don't know why it's... Oh, I know why it's not working. Let's try that again. So I made a duplicate of the layer. Unfortunately, you didn't see how I did that. But you can also right-click on it. So technically, you could do two things. You can drag and drop a layer onto this button here. This button normally creates a new layer, but it will create a duplicate layer. In my case, I did that. But you can also right-click on a layer and click duplicate layer. That's pretty unambiguous right there. Just do whatever you're comfortable doing when you use an application like Photoshop. And then I want to get rid of the David Letterman name. No offense, I like David Letterman. Well, I don't hate him. I mean, I'm pretty neutral about David Letterman. He's never done nothing to hurt me. Could we use a larger paintbrush? We could try. Certainly would make my life easier. No, we shouldn't make it that big. So now the clone stamp is doing exactly what it looks like it's doing. See that little crosshair on the bottom? Basically, it's going to take whatever color is on the crosshair, under the crosshair, and use the paintbrush to paint it. It's pretty convenient, but it's not magic. It's not magic like you can sometimes tell when somebody used a clone stamp. But, there's ways to mitigate those effects. In my case, I'm going to try to mitigate the effects by taking another sample up here. You see, we have a horizontal banding pattern here. I'm kind of just going to rough sketch it out. I'm making a bit of a mess of it at this point. So I'm just trying to be gentle and not make it too messy. Okay, so the only thing I regret is making that light blue all over here. Whatever, you know what? We're not here to do a great job. We're here to do an adequate job. Still, I'm not crazy about this. Now, I could probably apply my own color gradient, but let's see what the original look like. I think we can do better than that. Let's do better. No! Whoops, wrong setting. Okay, delete layer. Oh. Oh yeah, that's an interesting little feature. Not feature, but thing about the clone stamp. So even though it's going to copy wherever the crosshair is, even though now this area has turned blue where the paintbrush is, where the big circle is. Oh, that's a weird glitch too. All right. So there's two things that happens. When number one, this is a glitch that's always exists. Not really a glitch, but it has always existed. So when I use the clone stamp, it's going to copy from the crosshair and put the color blue or copy whatever color is under the crosshair. Oh my god, it's fucking annoying. Okay, so let me start over. Okay, so this is like number one. So see how I'm painting, but then when I move the paintbrush up, it's going to clone the original lettering. So what happened there was basically I was brushing away the bottom of the words by taking the color blue from down here and cloning it up here. And so even though this area turns blue, once the crosshair moves to the area where there used to be lettering, it'll start cloning the original pattern. But there's another thing that happens too that's super annoying. And this is a feature that's unique to running an old version of Photoshop on a new version of Windows. So I'm running the clone stamp like I just did now. And if I move it up, it's going to do the old glitch. Look at that. It's like literally copying the missing letters. But the other thing it does, see how the screen flickered? I'm going to do it again. So I'm moving my brush around. The screen's going to flicker. See that? That is a thing that does not normally happen unless you're if I was using a new version of Photoshop, or if I wasn't using an ancient version of Photoshop on Windows 10, that wouldn't happen. But in any case, we're just gonna finish up here. So let's hit the undo. Whoa. Okay, I'm pressing control. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoops. Okay, there we go. We're gonna get rid of that. And then we'll have a thumbnail for tonight's stream. So we're gonna basically take this area where the crosshair is, clone it up here. We're just gonna brush it all the way through it. It did the blinking thing again. See that? It's so annoying. And we're gonna just brush it away. And it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but my goal is to try to, like, clone the gradient, or at least try to make an effort of cloning the gradient. I don't want to have a splotchy pattern if I can avoid it. And I think, yeah, I don't think it's that splotchy. I think we should be fine. So now let's type in my name. Oh man, the statistics said there was one person watching and now they're not watching. Man, I was hoping to have some friends drop in tonight, friends of the channel, but that's okay. I'm just happy that friends of the channel show up on Mondays. Like, I might make a habit of doing Monday streams. Like, I get some joy out of doing a Monday night stream, even though I lose sleep if I stay on too long. But that's sort of the, what's inspiration to, like, end the stream on time. Because, you can't stay up till 4 a.m. if you got work at 5 a.m. You could. You shouldn't. Oh, that's annoying. I only erased the Letterman part. I still got to erase David. And this is interesting. So there's like a little gap in the lines down here, but because the upscaling utility, didn't know what it was really looking at, it kind of, we can clean that up by hand. I'm glad I covered my telescope up, as it's starting to drizzle outside, or I can hear the drizzling outside. Yeah, I wish it was like less of a sloppy pattern over here. I should probably not worry about it and just, like, be happy. So I just finished reading a book. It was called The Smoke Ring. It was by Larry Niven, and it was a sci-fi book about a thing called the smoke ring. So basically, in the beginning of the book, it starts off with a shipboard AI who doubles as the captain of a ship named Kendi, Charles Kendi David, and he's calling out to some ship in the middle of a gas torus. I'll explain what that is in a moment. He's trying to call out to the crew. He's trying to say, Kendi for the state. And I don't know, he's like calling these people out. And essentially turns out that his crew might have mutinied against him, but he doesn't remember why, because, he's an AI who has the ability to delete his own memories. And he decided that after 500 years in a certain part of space, he didn't want to remember the names of the people who mutinied against him in case he would be impartial and, punish their descendants for the act. And we can see that using the clone stamp has a major flaw for what I'm trying to do with it. You can see, like, I'm trying to chase this blotchy pattern here. This is not necessary. I'm flabbergasted right now. I mean, like, I'm sure there's an easier way to do what I'm trying to do. But getting back on the topic here, yeah, so, what's not the topic, but this thing called a gas torus. So imagine this. Imagine you got like a gas giant planet, you know, it's sort of like Jupiter orbiting a star. So you can see the color difference. So when you zoom out, the colors don't look radically different, but then you zoom in and you see that like there's major color difference between the left side and the right side here. So it's like a straight up gradient right there. I have an idea for that. So anyway, imagine this. You have a gas giant planet in orbit of a star, but you have like a neutron star on one side and you have like a somewhat normal star on the other side. And essentially the balance of gravity and such makes it such that some of the gases from the gas giant planet end up forming a donut around the star. And so you now have this donut of gas, or a torus, because that's the term for, like, you know, donut. A torus of gas called a gas torus. And the air is breathable. So these humans decide, hey, let's inhabit this place. It's not that bad. Like, it's pretty livable. We could do much worse. Like, I mean, you know, you could end up on a planet with a toxic atmosphere. So living in a gas torus is not terrible. In fact, I'm gonna get a picture of this gas torus, because what's cool is that my brother like left me the book for this a while back, and it has like pictures in it. Like somewhere I have this physical book. I think I ended up buying the ebook at some point, but the physical book has like diagrams in it, and there's more than diagrams. But you know, we got like, for example, we got like this like a gas torus right here. And then this some Eastern European guy drew it. And here's the picture from the book. So these people analyzed the shit out of it. And there's some higher resolution scans of this picture right here. That's not it. You see, like, it looks like a solar system. You got a gas torus and a clump of material. You got somebody asking a question on Quora. You got some of the cover art. So one of the things is that in this gas torus, you have microgravity, you have free fall, I guess would be the accurate term. And you also have these trees that grow in free fall. And they call them integral trees. I forget why they call them that, but in fact, that's the first book in the series, Integral Trees by Larry Niven. It started off as a series of short stories. And, you know, like you have like rockets that use steam propulsion. So like they basically take some water and burn some tree bark. And you can see right here, you got like one of these steam rockets right here being used. And basically they take like something looks like a gourd. They use that as a water tank. And they burn some tree bark. They call it fire bark for some reason. Perhaps it burns at a hot temperature. They burn this so-called fire bark, and they're able to like take the water and turn it into steam. And using another one of these bulbous looking things, they have an exhaust funnel. So you got steam coming out the back, and this is effectively a rocket. So imagine you're in an area with a breathable atmosphere, but it's in orbit of a star. And yet there's no real gravity to speak of in there. So you'd have like an area on here that would give you your propulsion by burning the steam or burning the water into steam. And you have a compartment up here where people can hang out, sleep, or at least pilot the thing, or at least, you know, you can transport people and goods in this part of the vehicle. But the thing was that originally, these are people who were on a long haul ram ship. I think they call it a Cedar ram ship. And this Cedar ram ship had like little shuttlecraft on it called COMs, cargo and repair modules. And you see one in this little picture right here. We'll get a better picture of a COM. But yeah, let's take a look at this picture here, because this is as good a resolution as I'm gonna find on short notice. So this is from the, in fact, I think this is from the first book The Integral Trees by Larry Niven. And you can see here that you got a wide shot and a close-up shot. So in the wide shot, you have what they call the gas torus. You have a star called Voy. Voy, I believe, is a neutron star, if I remember correctly. And then they're orbiting a sun. I don't know what the name of the sun is. It's called T3, I guess. Or is it called Gold? No, Gold is down here. So this is the wide shot. Now, if we zoom in on this big circle here, you have the gas torus right over here. Then within the gas torus, you have a relatively inhabitable area called the smoke ring. Then when you go past the smoke ring, you have another gas torus. So essentially, from what I understand, you know, you have a torus of gas orbiting a sun-like star, but most of it is pretty thin. And the thickest part of it that has moisture and stuff in it, that's the smoke ring. And down here, as part of the smoke ring, from what I can figure, that is Goldblatt's world. They call it Gold, but it's Goldblatt's, named after Dr. Goldblatt. And essentially, between the balance of gravity and tide from the, neutron star, in conjunction with the more conventional G-type star, and the gravity of the, gas giant, Goldblatt's world, this sort of colludes to steal some gas from the neutron star to allow this smoke ring to exist. And so people living in orbit of a star live in orbit of a smaller neutron star, which also orbits this star. And, a neutron star is more or less a collapsed star, right? It's like whatchamacallit. Oh, shoot, Real Wade Gaming dropped in. See, this is the issue I'm talking about. Ugh. So, see how the chat just updated? See how the fucking chat just updated? Part of my French. That's because if you let the chat window fall behind the main window. Okay, so that's a bad test because I can't see. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go on my phone real quick and show you. This is super annoying because I would love to say hi to Real Wade Gaming. He's a cool dude. In fact, I'm so glad he left a message in the chat so I can shout him out. So, as you can see, that this did not update on my screen, so I didn't know that he messaged me. But excuse me. Here's an opportunity. We're gonna use, because I'm a moderator of my own channel. I'm gonna click Go to Channel. I'm gonna go to Real Wade Gaming. I'm gonna subscribe. I am subscribed. Good. I should be subscribed. And Real Wade Gaming Clips, to be exact. He's got gaming clips. Yeah, he's got a lot of gaming clips. Is that a Pokemon game? Oh yeah, Onyx. That's a Pokemon. I didn't know they had a Pokemon Stadium for phone. And if you want to have the audio to this, you're gonna have to go to this guy's channel. So anyway, let me show you the issue with the glitch. So I'm looking at Real Wade Gaming Clips right now, right? But if I go to my own channel, I go to my own video, and if I click on the chat and I type test 2, the message does not come up. See, look, no message. Or here, right? No message up there. Hey, where's my desk camera? Fucking restream. I gotta fix that. So I had a little issue before where Restream wanted to connect to this camera instead of OBS. I'm gonna fix that real quick. But yeah, I'm gonna leave a link to Real Wade gaming clips in the thing because I feel bad that I didn't see his message earlier. Check out today. There we go. Because yeah, I think people should subscribe to him. Why did I just get? I don't know why I suddenly got the case of the yawns. But anyway, let's get back to the gas Taurus. Ooh, I gotta blow my nose now. I gotta blow my nose off camera if you forgive me for a minute. Excuse me. Oh, wrong camera. Way larger on that camera. But I now need to close. I need to close OBS and reopen it to fix an issue. So we're gonna do that right now. Yo, yo, can you hear me now? It's not my birthday, but I thank you for mentioning it's my birthday anyway. Yeah, so I want to mention that I left a link to Real Wade gaming clips in the chat because he dropped in earlier and I didn't see it. And the reason I didn't see it was because if I have the chat window like this and I cover it up with another window like this, it doesn't update. So if you send me a message right now, or if I send myself a message right now, like I'm going to type the word test into the chat on my phone, it doesn't come up. But the instant that I bring the chat to the front, suddenly it updates. So in other words, the chat window always has to be on top. So I can do this, I can switch between tabs, but I always have to make sure the chat window is on top, or else it doesn't update because it's super convenient. Like the chat window, in theory, like I could have it on top. Oh, good. Okay, I fixed that. That's why I just closed OBS to fix that. Maybe we're gonna go into model kit in a little while. Oh, I painted my starship. So I mean, I gotta really do I might have to redo this paint coat here, but I put the brown over here. So I mean that's good. I just gotta install some antennas and straighten out the ones that are already there. But getting back on topic, yeah, I know you're kidding, man. I appreciate it, Uki. Oh yeah. So number one, Uki Spooky Outsider Occult October Odyssey. Yes, I know who you are. My brain took a second to make the connection, even though I know who you were this morning. I noticed that about this afternoon. I saw your name and I went, "Oh yeah, it's fucking Action Man, aka whatever your name was last month, aka whatever your name was the month before that, aka Indiana Jones June and July." I'm so glad you kept that going for 2 months. That was cool. But yeah, I mean, of course, September ended. I thought you were going to stick with the Castlevania thing for a little longer because you went middle of September. You went and became the Castlevania Cast Club, and probably because you were on a big Castlevania, roll, right? And then this dude, I guess the Castlevania thing ended, or at least you weren't putting as much emphasis on Castlevania. So that's cool. But hey, it's like anytime you drop by, it is like my birthday. So I was talking about the Larry Niven book, known as The Smoke Ring. In fact, The Smoke Ring is the sequel to The Integral Trees. And it is a book about a smoke ring and a gas torus that orbits a G-type star, a lot like our sun. And you can see the diagram of the smoke ring here. But in the middle of the smoke ring, you have this dark area called the smoke rings. You got gas torus, which is like about 10 to the something if power of kilometers big. And you got a gas torus in the center. And in this picture here, it's zoomed in, you see it says smoke ring, and got a couple areas. You got Goldblatt's World. You got the clump of L5, where Dalton Quinn Tree is located. You got London Tree and the Carter Estates. And you got Citizens Tree right over here and clump at L4. And basically, there's these trees that are shaped like integration signs, which apparently is like a mathematical thing. But here's like one of the trees right here. It's like a picture from the book cover. And you can see how like on this side of the tree, it sweeps the branches this way. On the other side of the tree, the foliage sweeps in the other direction. And let's see what else here. So it looks like I got to answer my questions here. And Ookie Spooky Outside Occult October Odyssey says, yeah, prior to that, when I was actually monetized and trying to grow this channel, was named Games, Movies, and Comics Are Us for over. Oh, that was you. That was you. Okay, you were Game Comics and okay, interesting. See, I would not have known that. I appreciate that's cool. But yeah, I know it could be rough out there maintaining monetization. When you have enough subscribers, you presumably have enough accumulative watch hours. But getting back on topic here, because apparently this is very fascinating, and you are like my only mod. Now, jokes aside, I'm thinking about making Lady Mist a moderator, but I got to ask her if she wants to be a moderator. I don't want to make her feel responsible or anything like that. I just think that I appreciate her showing up on Sunday and Monday night streams. Like, that means a lot to me. So that alone, like, makes a moderator worthy. But getting back on topic here, you got this fruity looking guy. Is that a guy or a girl? This thing's got like a little boob there. And they got like these tall prehensile toes like monkeys. So apparently like natural selection is already rearing its head as people are born. And at this point, it's 500 years after the original ship. So a ship called Discipline, that's the name of the ship. For whatever reason, there's a mutiny. They don't know the full story. In fact, I have to reread the last 5 chapters of the second book to know the backstory of that mutiny. But that ship had 8 of these craft called COMs, Cargo and Repair Modules. And essentially, Cargo and Repair Module is like a shuttlecraft from Star Trek. Except this COM here, I should also mention, like, it has solar panels on it. And the way it works is that it can take water and use electrolysis to turn it back into hydrogen and oxygen. And that's what it does. And that's how it gets its propulsion. And so at this point in the book, they're using the COM to push the tree, because normally you live on a tree, because that's the only thing you can live on. Like, so once these humans moved into the smoke ring, they could only live on these floating trees. And as I understand it, the center of the tree has like little or no gravity. But as you move towards the end of the tree, you get what they call tide. And the tide is what essentially serves as the equivalent to gravity. And so people who are born in, free fall tend to be taller than people who are born in, in tide, aka gravity. Although it looks like there's some foliage here. And you can see there's like some little huts over here. You can see like a little hut here and a little hut here and a little hut here. I just remembered I got to take apart my mouse really soon. Anyway, most people living on these trees can't move them. And so at one point in the book, the people living at Dalton Quinn Tree, they encounter a drought. And the people living at the end of the tree decide it's time to go looking for food. So they kick some people out of the village that they didn't like. But they're also the people who can go and maybe find some way to fix things or bring food back. And on the way up the tree falls apart, splits in half. And it's not until later on in the book they find out why that happens. And basically what it comes down to is during a drought, the tree will dry up, and that will cause the tree to weaken and split in half. And one side of the tree will go out to the far end of the gas torus where it won't survive. It'll dry out, die, whatever. But the other side of the tree will move back in. So as a tree moves further out or further in, I forget which direction, it encounters drought. One side of the tree will go in the wrong direction. The other side of the tree will go in the correct direction and regrow to be a healthy tree again. And so at one point, for whatever reason, the people at the London tree have a working cargo and repair module from the original ship. And they basically build their society around it. They don't build it around the ship, but they essentially have an advantage because now whenever the tree enters a drought-stricken area of the smoke ring, they could push the tree. They could use the hydrogen propulsion to push the tree back into a relatively habitable area. So that's a pretty cool advantage to have. And so for whatever reason, people in the book, they hijack it, they steal the calm, and they form their own tree called Citizens Tree. And Citizens Tree, I'd say they're pretty much good guys. And so they went from over here, Dalton Quinn Tree, which was really getting way too dry to survive. As the tree is splitting in half, a group of survivors make their way over here. And they get enslaved. And so in the act of getting enslaved, some of them get enslaved, not all of them. They go to rescue their own people. In the act of rescuing their own people, they steal the cargo and repair module. They fly towards Goldblatt's world. You gotta sort of like orbit it. You can't really go into it. And they make their way over to here where they find a tree and they say, okay, we're gonna call this Citizens Tree. And there's like in the second book in the series, they have like a 20-ish year time jump. And they make some friends with some jungle giants pretty early on. And jungle giants live, I think, in microgravity. They're taller. And I don't know, they're just used to living in zero gravity. And the jungle giants bring up the idea of like, well, you know, we can make rockets out of tree parts. So that's what they do. They make rockets out of tree parts. In fact, at one point in the book, they meet them because they're leaving wherever they were to somewhere else. So what they like to do is they like to build steam rockets and take the trees to a commerce place. They like to build rockets and transport the trees to wherever these mother effers are in the clump. Because there's people over there that will buy logs. So as long as you show up at the market and there's nobody else at the market trying to sell a tree at the same time as you, you'll make good money on it, you know? And you'll be able to buy stuff with it and you're good to go. And so they kind of make friends with the guys at Citizens Tree and the rest is history. But I don't want to ruin too much of the story. I'm being really careful not to ruin the story. But I do need to work on my Xeon Zaku. Now, I was working on Victory Gundam, but I feel like I'll be able to finish my Zaku before the weekend is over. So let's take a look here. I wasted a lot of time this weekend on other things. I gotta get my screen repaired. I'm actually gonna send my phone out to Samsung, I think, because this sucks. So I think I cracked the screen while I wasn't wearing a screen protector. I bought this on eBay for like $500. And you can see like right here, there's a little fucking crack right over there. You can barely see it. If I do my lighting a little differently, you can probably see it better. There we go. Now you can see it. See that? Point of impact starts there, I guess. And you get these spider cracks working their way out. And I didn't notice this until like late today. After I put my phone in the water, because like when my phone gets dirty, it's a waterproof phone. So I'm like, oh, I'll just rinse it with some soap and water. So I just like put sometimes I'll clean it with 99% alcohol, which is good because it doesn't, you know, ruin electronics. But you know, if it's a waterproof phone, so I put soap and water on it. And I'm pretty sure this crack was there before I started cleaning it. So water can get inside. Once you crack a screen, you can't put it underwater. No good. But I looked into it. Samsung should be able to fix it for as little as $206. But for $290, I can have them replace the battery at the same time. So that's like, great. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, sure. Why not? They'll fix the screen, the bezel, and put a new battery in. You know what? I bought this used for $500 on eBay. They said the battery was guaranteed to 80% capacity. So, you know what? Wouldn't hurt to have a brand new battery installed in here. But, and I'll tell you, I'm adventurous, but I'm not adventurous enough to put a new screen on one of these. Now, before when I first saw the crack, like while I was putting my telescope away, I put my fingernail on here and a line formed and half the screen went black on me. Like the screen would start flickering like, and I was like, ah, shit. And I'm thinking that maybe the screen's flickering because water got inside the crack. And I'm hoping that I was able to get water to leave by pouring alcohol on it or something. I don't know. I just need this phone to keep it together for a week. then by then I'll be able to have a secondary phone ready to go, and then I will ship this off to Samsung for $300. And assuming that there's no disqualifications, they'll fix it with like legitimate Samsung parts, and I'll have a fixed screen and a new battery. And then I'm definitely gonna buy another screen protector. Like now, did I have a screen protector? I did have a screen protector. I had a UV bonded screen protector, and it was pretty good. It came with the phone when I bought it on eBay. So whoever I bought the phone on eBay from, they put a screen protector on it that used a UV bonding agent. And what I mean by that is, like, it literally, like, if you go on Amazon or eBay, Amazon, and you look up, I don't know, like UV screen protector or some crap like that, you're gonna see that there's actually a product that you put gel on your phone screen, right? You put gel on your phone screen, and you put the screen protector on top of the liquid gel. Then you put that under a UV light for like 2 minutes or something like that, and then it hardens. And when it's done hardening, that screen protector is like bonded to your fucking screen. This kind of scared the shit out of me. I was like, I'm not buying that. But I didn't have to buy my own because it came with the phone. And I'm like, you know what? It worked pretty good. Like the screen protector stayed on there, and I could take it in the shower, and water didn't get trapped under the screen protector. So I was like, you know, maybe this is not a bad idea. So today we're going to use the green cutting board. I have a black cutting board, and I got some paint on it. But the thing is that this one here is a real cutting board. What I mean by that is this is a self-healing cutting board. So if you put like paper on top of it and you cut it, this is supposed to like somewhat heal itself. Now, I think I have some cutting marks down here. No, that's not cutting marks. Is that paint? I don't even know what's on here. I think I got something on here that I can clean off. Something got on here, but anyway, I can clean that off, no problem. But I realized I was misusing the cutting board because, like, this should be used for cutting things, not for painting things. Because this is a real cutting board. These cost more. So maybe I'll put some paint thin on here. I don't really care if the paint is on here. I just need it to be a good cutting board. And if we slice it with an X-Acto knife, I'm pretty sure it won't get messed up. Oh, good. Okay, we got a blade right here. So normally you'd use this to cut like a piece of paper or something like that. But alternatively, you can just cut it right now. And so I just cut it right over here. I mean, you can see a line. I did cut it. In fact, I can barely see the lines. No, it looks like it healed before our eyes. Now, obviously, it's not magic. But what's happening is there's like a material in here. It's almost like foam or cellulose or some shit like that. And it can heal under simple slices marks like that. Like, I gotta see if I can watch it heal before my eyes. It heals before my eyes. Is that really how that works? Oh my god, does that work? Nah, I might have taken a deeper gouge out of it this time, and it might take longer for it to heal if it does at all. But I'll show you where I sliced it. So second time I made a deeper gouge into it. That probably doesn't help it heal itself, but you can see the deep gouge right over here. But no big deal. It was like, you expect this to take some damage when you're using it. I just thought maybe the cutting mark was going to heal itself like the one up here did. The only area where I see it being cut is where the paint is. And frankly, I'd be fine with the paint coming off. If I can make the paint come off, I mean, it's not that important, but on one angle, maybe the paint can act as a protective coating. Whatever. I don't know why I'm going crazy trying to fix that. Just thought I'd give it a shot. I wonder what these circles mean. So this X-Acto blade isn't an X-Acto blade. I think it goes into a different brand, and it's too big for my X-Acto knife, so I need to buy a different handle at some point. These are the correct size for my X-Acto. And I don't know what my X-Acto knife is right now. It's probably like buried under something here. But what we do need is these sanding sticks. So anyway, bottom line is that this is a real cutting board. I'm going to use this cutting board going forward as cutting board only, exclusively. It's also considerably thicker. This one here is a cheap cutting board. It's thinner than the one I just showed you, but I feel a lot more comfortable ruining this one. Although I can't tell if I got some like gouge marks on this side. In fact, I think I was testing it when I first bought it, so I poked it. I can feel a rough texture right over here. Something about this just tells me it's not a real cutting board. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a quality cutting board. It's adequate, but it's not like a great unit. You know what I mean? Shit, I don't have my watch. I don't know what time it is. Okay, it says it on my screen. I should wear my watch, but I took it off like yesterday and I haven't put it on since, so I don't want to throw off the statistical data. So I bought these new sanding sticks or sandpapers, but they're really more like for getting into tight spaces. They come in 1,000 grit, 800 grit, 600. So basically 600, 800, 1,000. I don't know if that's enough, but they're pretty useful. Then I have this other brand here, and I misplaced the container full of replacement sanding sticks. But you know what? We're going to have a little fun today. We're going to try to use the scoring tool. So, okay, this is a Xeon Zaku, or leg of a Zaku. You can see I did some painting here, and I did some sanding here. But this line over here, that line is starting to be smoothed out. We need to bring that line back. So how do we bring that line back? Well, we're going to use a tool called a scoring tool. And you know it's got to be good because it's got Japanese letters on it. And it came with this big handle here. And I bought it because I saw some gunpla modeler on Instagram using one. Whoops, opened it backwards. And they knew what they were doing. I don't, but they knew what they were doing. It looked really cool. So I was like, you know what, I'll try one out. So what you have is these different cutting needles here. They're not labeled, unfortunately. I wish they had like little markings on them to tell you which one cut what, or what, what size they were. But if you line them up in the correct orientation, so you can see the cutting point or the scoring head, basically you need to be able to see how thick it is, right? But yeah, let's see here. So this time I have the chat window overlaid in the correct manner. So if I don't have the chat window correctly overlaid, I can't see the chat update. But this time it should update correctly. But anyway, getting back on topic here. So I think we can clearly see which one of these has the pointier head or the thinnest. So this is a pretty thin. and they're not necessarily in order, but you can certainly see that this one's thick, this one's pretty thick, this is the narrowest one. So I'm going to try to match up which one I need based on the line that I want to score. I want to say that the second sized one would be just about right. Whoops. I don't really know. We're going to just kind of just see what it looks like. Try the smallest one first. The way I see it, you could always switch to the larger one after making a pilot cut. So basically, we just put it in here. Once again, I'm not an expert, but essentially, we just want to tighten this hexagonal bolt. Use either side of the tool. If you want to get a lot of leverage, you can do that if you want. Once again, it's got to be a good product. It's got Japanese letters on it. Certainly get more leverage tightening it like that. Now, here's where things get weird. I could just freehand it, but this cutting tool came with this like weird tape, scoring tool, I should say. And yeah, I got some dirt stuck to the side of it, but let's find where the tape starts. I'm gonna peel away some and try it out. And I should underscore. I don't know what the hell I'm doing here. We're just gonna put it like this on the leg. I'm almost certain I'm doing this wrong. We're gonna find out together. I gotta try to hold this at a comfortable angle that works for me, but I'll try to keep this in the camera view. I'm not a gun plug guy from Instagram, so don't expect me to do this right, okay? You gotta be real careful with this. Frankly, I think the tape is interfering with me. I think I put it on in the wrong position, maybe. Motherfucker. Alright, we're making a battle damaged Zaku. This is no Zaku, boy. No Zaku. I think I'm doing this wrong, but we are making a gouge into the plastic. We can definitely say that's happening. I think it's actually working. Once again, do not take this as advice. Take this as how I'm doing it. Oh yeah, oh yeah. It kind of works. Ow. I'll explain why I'm doing this in a moment. Motherfucker. It was almost going so well until I made a scratch. I can fix it. That's why they provide this tape, I think, so you don't go off this line by accident. Well, let me show you what I did so far. So I just kind of cut a rough gouge in there, put the tape there. There's some oopsies there, but I'm hoping I can sand away those oopsies. Okay, that was good. The tape saved me from scratching it. I think I'll have to do. So let's see what happens. Let's see how this looks right now. See my messy work, right? Let's see how bad it looks when we take the tape off. How far does the tape wrap around? Here we go. Okay. Now, I should note that there used to be a seam. So see how this area here looks smooth? You almost see a little seam there. This is actually formerly two pieces of plastic, and you can see some evidence up here. But what we did was we used the glue to sort of melt it together through capillary action and through successive sanding. That's why we have this like missing seam here, and that's why I used the scoring tool. Now, I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna take my chances here and see if I could maybe score up the remaining panel. See how that looks now. Now, was that an unnecessary cut? I'd say this one is a better quality scoring line because I think it adds a little value. The original ones are fine too, but really at this point, I want to try to match. I want to match it up. You know what I mean? Like I want to match them up so that they don't clash. All right, let's not go too far with this. So now we got different types of sandpaper grit, and realistically, I don't think we need to even start from the bottom. But we're gonna just do a little rough sanding here, and we're gonna work our way up. All right. I'm not gonna get all OCD about it. I might put some cement on it just to melt, make the plastic melt. Shouldn't really. It's not really what it's for. But let's see how we do this here. This is not how you do it. Once again. So what I do is I put a very small amount of thin cement into that seam in order to make it like fall into place through capillary action. I mean, maybe it'll help to smooth it out. I don't know. But I'm going to leave this leg alone. I think this leg is basically fine. I think I might be able to clean up the front of his foot a little bit. In fact, this is why I bought this type of sandpaper here. I don't like that there's still a seam here. Look at that shit. I got rid of the seam on the foot, but not over here. I don't really want to do this, but I put a little glue right there. This stuff smells like, I don't know why model kit glue smells like bananas, but it does. So now let's check out this leg here. This one we're going to be like less OCD about. We're just going to get it going. So number one, you can see the little glue there and a little seam there. I'm just going to I'm missing like different types of sandpapers at the moment. I'm finding all of the sandpaper sticks that I don't need right now. So it's gonna skip to 2000 grit. Actually, we got 1000 grit right here. I don't think it's a real. I don't think it's the same standard, but we use 1000 grit. So I just want to get rid of the seam, and then we're gonna keep building this Zaku, because in the War of Zeon Independence, they got to build as many Zeon Zakus as they can in a timely manner, especially in preparation for the Battle of Abawaku or the Battle of Solomon. I mean, like, the Principality of Zeon or the Duchy of Zeon, they're not in a good position. I mean, they're fighting the fucking Earth Federation. They got like a ton of resources. And every time they try to attack or take over land on Earth, hey, what up, Bucky's Crafting? I want to get into model making someday. I really enjoy painting minis and doing 3D puzzles. So I feel like it's kind of a natural progression for me. Yeah, I dig that. And if you enjoy painting minis and doing 3D puzzles, I think that model making is cool. Now, I don't know if Gundam, Gunpla or Gundam building is, the same. But I mean, it's basically, I mean, I guess it is, right? Because I mean, you got your plastic parts on runners. And what's cool about Gundam models are, at least for the most part, at least this is an entry grade model, so the parts are not pre-colorized. But this might even be from the 90s, to be honest. This might not even be a new one, but they have somewhere written on here, the box says first grade. But yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for dropping by Bucky's Crafting if you're still there. I know I may not be as tentative to the chat. And frankly, the YouTube statistics are not always on time. Like sometimes I won't even see if somebody's leaving a message or not, and or if somebody's present. So I apologize. But anyway, mostly the chat should be up to date though. So anyway, this one you can see we got darker colors here, but this one doesn't come with multicolored parts. So in the pictures they show you like dark colored parts. It is a bit misleading, but most people who do model building are aware of the fact that the pieces are not colorized. Like I have a Vulcan Sirach shuttlecraft from Star Trek, and that thing has no colors on it whatsoever. Like it's a model from the 70s or 80s, or mid 80s. So no surprise there. And I didn't know that. I bought it as a kid. Opened up the box, like there's no color, just this yellow plastic. At least this thing is mostly green. It's kind of, it's close enough, right? I mean, if you were to build this without coloring it, it'd be close enough. But really, it's good to have some kind of marker or paint marker. And they do make Gundam markers. At least people who do Gundam models can buy Gundam markers, so they don't have to use acrylic paints or, acrylic or enamel paint. Sometimes you use enamel. And 3D printing can be interesting, but I think there's a lot of short forms of 3D printing, but like the idea of like, it's like one of the things I painted on from a 3D printer. I want to print a better one, a bigger one, and do better with the paint job, but 3D printing has a lot of like telltale signs. So for example, when you like look at a 3D print, you can sometimes see horizontal lines. In fact, you usually see them. The paint and primer helps to mask those horizontal lines, which is really cool. But a typical 3D print will have lines going through it. If I can find an example, I'll show you. See, like right here, those lines. In fact, I got to put another coat of paint because I don't know how this blue paint got on here, but I got to fix that now. But some like this is an example of like imperfections you see on a 3D printer. But for most of the model, you can see some like lines going like this. And I've been able to mask most of those lines. In fact, you can see some fine layer lines. But I printed this standing up. And these fine layer lines are somewhat masked. Yeah, the lines drive me nuts too, Bucky's. I agree. And, just to acknowledge the painting is one of the parts that I really enjoy. I've mostly done D&D minis so far. I really like painting them in different ways. Yeah, I see some cool stuff. And, years ago, I probably wouldn't be able to appreciate, painting them D&D. And like, for example, like I'm a fan of 40K. I don't play 40K tabletop, but I can see it being a cool thing to paint your own minis and stuff like that. And yeah, the lines, like you say, you've noticed the lines of 3D printing, and you say it drives you nuts. And yeah, it drives me nuts too. For a long time, I didn't want to buy a 3D printer because of that and other factors. I mean, for one, like with a 3D printer, you got like a slab, right? Like this like green board here, and you got like the nozzle that squirts out melted plastic going up and down. So essentially, it's like an old school plotter where it's moving left, right, x-axis, y-axis, and so you can draw like squares and stuff like that. And then what it does, if you want to draw a cube, it's going to draw a square. It's going to go up one layer, draw a square, go up another layer, draw a square. You get the idea. And like that's cool and stuff, but it's kind of limiting. It's like it means that like to get a fast print, you have to be more tolerant of those like lines and layers. And so early 3D printers, I thought they were a freaking joke. Like I know a guy started a small business on it. He's doing okay from what I understand. Either he's doing really okay, or his parents bankrolled his big startup so that he can run at a loss. But anyway, one of those two things happened. I remember he was in the newspaper for like various like things. Like they had like a cultural center and they were printing out. He printed out like a New York City skyline with his 3D printers that he built, and they were just very rough shapes. Like, and granted, a big part of 3D printing is sanding it. Sanding is a huge deal. Like when I did my first 3D print, I printed out, I think I downloaded a model of the F-117 stealth fighter or stealth bomber, depending on how you look at it. And that thing, like I sanded it, and that's when I learned about different types of sanding. So for example, this is you got 400, 600, 800 grit, and you work your way up. So the idea is that you start with a really rough sandpaper, you work your way up, then you do some wet sanding, we add some water. And it mostly did well to make a polished surface. And I've used that methodology on here. So I'll use different grit sandpapers. And a good example is like this one, I didn't even have to sand it, but this part of the model has some like major imperfections. Like you can see over here how the plastic has that like almost looks like a swirl pattern over here. I didn't sand this because it's gonna get covered up by another part. I had that same swirl pattern down here on the skirt. And so what I did, it was like a giant robot. So I used low grit sandpaper, got a rough sanding out of it. Then I increased the grit and I did wet sanding with higher grit sandpaper so that it would go from being a rough scratched sand to a more buff look and sort of almost polished. Not quite shiny, but frankly, it's a war machine, so I don't need it to be like perfectly shiny. My husband wants to get into 40K. I've already called painting all his minis when he does get into it. Let him have some fun there, Let him have some fun with painting the minis, Bucky. But let's see, something I want to look into more sometimes is the resin dipping ones. Yes. I'm not sure what they're called exactly, but they're supposedly really good for fine details. Yes. When I wanted to buy a 3D printer, I was so close. So getting back to like, how they got two types. You got FDM, which is like basically the filament melting plastic or melting PLA to do your layer by layer, additive, creation or whatever you call it. And that's like what I have, right? I got like a Creality Ender 3 V2 printer, and you got the build plate. The build plate moves on the y-axis, but the nozzle moves on the x-axis. So essentially, effectively, it can draw a square one layer at a time by doing this. So essentially, the nozzle will go like this, left to right. Then when it wants to do like this part, the plate will go, then it'll go horizontally, then go, like so, something like this, if that makes sense. And it's sort of like taking an old school plotter, which is an architectural printer that uses a literal crayon or pencil inside the x-axis. The paper would be at the y-axis. So the paper, if you ever see a plotter printing a circle, you'll actually see the paper moving backwards in the printer because that's essentially how it draws a circle. And that's pretty much how a 3D printer works, except that a 3D printer is a old school architectural plotter, but with a z-axis. You got your vertical layers. Now, the resin printers, I forgot what they're called, but they're freaking cool. I think they're called I'm not going to make up a name for them, but you can look them up. Resin printer, basically. And yes, finer details. In fact, I think when I bought this model, because I had to pay $30 for the model of this ship. And it's two pieces. It's the back half. So I printed out this part standing vertically on the printer bed. I printed out this part standing vertically in the printer bed, and I glued it together. I paid like $28, something like that, for the model. I think it was worth it. The guy did a good job designing it, so he deserves his pay, even if it's an unauthorized, replica. Unlicensed, I should say. But it would have looked better on resin, probably. Problem with the resin, at the time I was buying a printer, there's two factors. One, it would have cost me more. It would have cost, basically for the same cost, you get a smaller build area. So on a filament printer, FDM, you have, let's say, 220 centimeter by 20 centimeter build plate. And it's like maybe 22 centimeters tall. On a resin printer, you get about half the build area. So it's like 10 centimeters by 10 centimeters. Now you could always build separate parts and glue them together. But that wasn't the real issue. The size wasn't the big issue. I might have still done it. The real issue with the resin printers is the toxic fumes. And so some of them will come with an enclosed container and an air filter. But if you ever look at the air filter on them, the air filter is like that big. And it's really not adequate. And just because it can hide the smell doesn't mean it's getting rid of the dangerous stuff. My 3D printer is in the same room as my turtles, so I don't want to get them sick. Now, I put my 3D printer into a Mylar tent. It sort of looks like a grow tent, but that was mostly to keep the temperature stable and to reduce the amount of energy that's wasted on keeping it hot, and also to reduce the amount of heat that leaves the printer tent so that I can hopefully reduce the amount of heat that gets into the rest of the room, or at least, limit the amount of heat that gets in the rest of the room during the summer. Frankly, I hate operating my 3D printer in the summer. I generally operate it in the winter because of that. And that's another thing. The resin printer would not be kicking off a lot of waste heat. But if you operate a resin printer, you would need to have, like, essentially the best thing to do in general is either change your filter regularly in the enclosure or have a dryer vent. Literally, like, one of those flexible tubes that you run from your clothes dryer out the side of the house or out a window. And so I have casement windows in the room where my 3D printer is. So I actually did find there was a thing made for air conditioners that fits in a casement window that you can attach to one of those indoor air conditioners. And that's how I would have to evacuate the fumes if I had a resin printer. Now, I do have some filaments that are toxic too. So PLA filament is generally not toxic, but I bought some ABS plastic filament. I have never printed with it, but if I ever did need to print with it, I would have to probably hook up some kind of dryer vent or a fan, like an exhaust fan, to push the toxic air out the window, because melting ABS plastic in a 3D printer like mine, yeah, that is going to kick off some toxic fumes. The other material I bought, I think, did I buy polystyrene? Polystyrene, I think, was it? It had a different name, maybe. Might have been polystyrene or some other crap like that. And that's another toxic filament. Nylon might also be toxic. They actually have a nylon printer filament. And these all have very good structural properties compared to PLA. PLA is good because it's not toxic. It has a low melting point. I think it's made out of recycled cornstarch. But it also means that if you leave a PLA 3D print in your car on a really hot day, it's going to start to soften up. And I mean, one way to help with that is to make the printer model thicker or to have more internal raw infill. Have more internal, don't make it hollow. And that'll help to protect it from those types of situations. So that's basically my thoughts on the resin dipping or resin 3D printing. They're freaking interesting. Like, they use a UV laser or UV light to harden them one layer at a time. And then I think when the model comes out of the resin dipped printer, you have to put it in front of a UV light for a certain amount of time once again. But once you do that, that shit's like set. It's like it's not going to melt under heat too easily. And you're imagining I get so impatient, as Bucky's Crafting says in the chat, I get so impatient with sanding, and that's why I stick with pre-made minis for now and focus on the part I like. Interesting. So the minis don't require a whole lot of sanding. In fact, these don't really require a whole lot of sanding either. The real challenge with these is when you cut the piece off. And so what I've learned was, believe it or not, is to leave the nub on, like I'm doing right here. So what I do is I have these Tamiya cutters, which I thought were really good quality ones, but I was getting a lot of stress marks when I was using them as flush cutters. So now what I do is I use these as my rough cutters. And then I can, whoops, made a mistake. Oh, I see, that's where it is. So I use these as my rough cutters. And then once I have this roughly cut, no, it's cool. I appreciate it. There's nobody else here. You can't be blowing up the chat, Buckies. But I appreciate you said, I promise I don't mean to be blowing up the chat. You're more than welcome to blow up the chat. I'm alone right now. I was hoping that other random stranger. I was not expecting you of all people, but it's good to see you. But yeah, I believe you. I've seen you in Pacific 414's Rumble chat at that matter. I didn't run my stream on Rumble today, but it's cool. So anyway, I bought these cutters. Now these were like, I don't know, $15 to $18. Tamiya. I will show you the Tamiya logo because it's a cool logo. I once saw an Asian kid near my job wearing a Tamiya t-shirt. I was jealous of him. So anyway, these cutters are like fucking way more expensive. These are basically the cheap version of the God Hands. God Hands are like $50 ones, and I didn't buy them on principle because the name God Hands is sacrilegious. Now, jokes aside, I didn't buy them because I didn't know that they existed. But these were $35. I'm much more willing to spend $35 instead of $50. And they have this adjustable bolt here that you can move, but you're not supposed to really adjust it, but it's supposed to prevent you from messing it up. Anyway, got a flat side, and you got the sharp side. And so an area where we don't want to have like a piece of the runner left is right here, right? This is the surface. So what we do is you take the flat side, we line it up. Oops, sorry, my hand control is not that good right now. Make sure it's nice and flat, hopefully, right? And generally, like, if it wasn't a round part, I should be able to get a pretty flush cut out of it. But even with this one here, no matter what, I'm going to have to sand it off. And so what I did before with the foot was I sanded off the nubs, and then I found out a cool trick where if you use Tamiya thin cement, you can pretty much melt or weld the plastic together and sand it, and you essentially get rid of the seam. So you notice here there's no seam, but up here there's sort of a seam. Oh, I still got to clean it up here. But that's basically because of this thin cement. And I want to give a shout out to JLM. Probably some fan in the windows would be good. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, look, man. Maybe. I don't know, man. I don't think it would be good enough, to be honest. That's like cancer, man. Yo, no, I mean, I know what you're saying. It might be good enough. I mean, I'm not willing to experiment because I'm afraid of killing my turtles. But to be fair, my turtles have a lower rate of respiration. They don't breathe very much. I mean, they can hold their breath like a long time. But I don't want to risk. If it was just me, I probably would try that. Put a fan in the window and see how that works out. But for the turtles, I'll hook up a fucking dryer vent. And like I said, they sell something that goes into. It's easier to put a dryer vent in a normal window. Having casement windows is a little trickier. But let's see real quick. Let's catch up here. So Buggy's crafting. I have 2 kids at home, so I have to take a break from painting until they're a bit bigger. I prefer to use enamel paints, and those aren't fumes I want anywhere near my. Yeah, I hear you, Bucky. And we have a small house. Yeah, so when I was doing some enamel painting, like I wanted to get into airbrushing, and 2 things. I wanted to buy there's a guy. His YouTube channel is called It's a Gundam, and he has a YouTube channel called It's a Gunpla or some shit like that. And he does his Gundam models on it, and he showed like what air compressor he bought for modeling, and it was like this fucking big. And I was thinking about getting it, and it wasn't like a bad idea to get a good air compressor for that purpose instead of just buying a low end air compressor that comes with an airbrushing kit. What I did instead was I bought a really low end airbrush that came with a cordless compressor, and that one was kind of cool because it's like a very low cost of entry. It's not perfect, but it was good enough. And I did some experimental painting. It wasn't terrible, actually. But mostly when you do airbrush painting, you got to do it outside or have a fume hood. And so I was mostly relegated doing it out in the backyard. Now, hand painting with enamel is a little bit safer. Like I would open the window and just kind of hold my breath while I'm doing it. I mean, when you're brushing with enamel paint, I think it's a bit safe. You don't need to wear a gas mask necessarily. You could wear a mask. Like I do have a P100 or N1 and an N100 mask I could wear for painting indoors. But generally, I mainly wear the air mask or respirator when I'm doing like airbrushing, especially if I'm in the basement, because I mean, now you're aerosolizing the fucking enamel paint. So I mean, that's like makes it a shit ton more dangerous, in my opinion, right? But moving on here, it sucks that the stuff that looks better is usually the toxic stuff. It makes me wonder if it's just a mental thing where we like it more because it's forbidden. I don't know. The enamel has some cool properties, but I did some reading. I hear that acrylic, if you give it enough time to dry and harden, it can make a very nice finish as well. So there are plus and minuses, but no, enamel is some good shit right there. I mean, You know, it's an interesting point, though. It's an interesting question. And but once again, JLM, I don't want to dismiss your idea about using a fan in the window to draw out fumes. It might not be a bad idea. I'm not completely sold on it, but I'm not completely against it either. And then Bucky's goes on to say, I like coming into smaller streamers when I can. Well, I'm as small as they come right now. Feels more like just hanging out with friends. Yeah, I agree. I just get busy, so I miss plenty of streams, but I like showing up when I can. And you know, I don't know if you're in the same time zone, but at this ungodly hour, I mean, you get an interesting, you get a niche crowd. Let's say that, you know, I mean, you guys are exclusive right now, as far as I'm concerned. I may not find you guys any other time of the day, except on Pacific 414 streams on occasion. Yeah, I agree. I would rather not risk it when it comes to resin fumes, enamel paint fumes. As Bucky says, I don't care about myself so much, but I want to keep them safe. Yeah, that's a reasonable way to be. At least until they become teenagers, right? You know, when they start becoming annoying, you might change your mind about keeping them safe from enamel fumes. Hell, might even give them some glue to sniff. This shit will fuck you up. No, I'm kidding. Oh, that's cool. The green cap is transparent. Huh. But yeah, now this is stuff here. Like if you have like two panels that you connect together. So ultimately, that thing I cut before is gonna get connected to this. And when I connect it to this, can I connect it now? No, wait. Why doesn't it fit? Oh, there it is. My inner 5-year-old wants to. There we go. Good. So I assembled the piece, right? So when these connect together, I'm going to use the thin cement, and the thin cement is going to fill the gap between these two pieces through capillary action, and it's going to essentially melt the plastics together. And then once the plastics are melted together, I'm going to give it a appropriate sanding using progressively higher grit sandpaper, and it'll be basically the same result that we got on here, if not better, because this one wasn't as good as I'd like it to be. Where's the other foot? But you can see this one came out pretty good, right? Look at that shit. That came out pretty decent. And you can see once get up here, I tried using a scoring tool with mixed results. I might skip using a scoring tool on this side, but the problem is that sanding this down over here, we lost the panel line, so I probably should use the scoring tool on that side too when I'm ready. Let's see what else the chat says. I thought about trying to turn a room into an updraft paint booth. Ooh. I have to Google that, but that sounds cool. That sounds cool. Whatever the hell an updraft paint booth is, it sounds like a good time. If it doesn't work, at least you can get high for free. Am I right? No, I'm kidding. So I was like actually talking about the Larry Niven book, The Smoke Ring and the Integral Trees before. If that interests anybody, let me know, and maybe I'll expand on that. But let's look up updraft paint booth. So let's see, it's updraft paint booth. It's like a telephone booth, but you get still. Oh yeah. So it's funny when I looked it up, you see something, but also you see these things here, and you could buy like smaller kits. Like, see, this has a turntable inside of it, and it's got like looks like an air filter, and it's got suction on the back. Actually, this one's very confusing. It looks like it's got circulating. It looks like it's sucking air in and blowing it over here, almost like create like a magical air barrier force field. And then you got some more intricate freaking setup here, like whatever the F this is right over here. Inflatable spray booth. Oh, that's cool. It's like one of those fun bubble shits. Yeah, I should probably make a cool observatory for my telescope if I can have an open roof on it. Anyway, that's like the extreme end of the spectrum on that, right? But when I think updraft and I think booth, I think more like a vertical thing. So let's see what else our chat people say. can't read the chat on the screen, but if I go to my desk cam now, we can see the text. See the text on the top left? I've been working on that. So now I got like, oh, I should put the chat inside this angle too. There we go. So you can see the chat. Pretty good setup there. I've been working on it. I like starting with lower end stuff and then upgrading things that I use and want a better version of. I'll splurge a bit on some nice fine brushes, but then there's some things I realize I don't need. Yeah, dude, like gradually. So sometimes I'll buy things I don't need ahead of time, and then other times I'll buy things as I figure out what my needs are. And that's sort of like what happened with the nippers. You know, like years ago when I did my first Gundam, I just used like, I don't know, like a box cutter and an emery board. Or I don't even know if I used a box cutter, but maybe I used an X-Acto knife. Well, I might not even use the blade, but I want to say I used an X-Acto knife and an emery board before realizing that it helps to do different, you know, grit sandpapers. Yeah, even with the updraft booth, you're right, JLM, you should wear PPE, personal protective equipment. Hey, when they become teenagers, they'll probably be huffing stuff on their own time. Yo, so it's funny. I'm gonna expand on that in a moment because I got some interesting shit to add about huffing things. Well, now I'm annoyed with you. I want to go pick up model building stuff. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Bucky. I'm sorry that I inspired you to consider buying some model building crap. I don't recommend it, dude. It'll be time consuming. You know, instead, build a puppet. Build a puppet, okay? Like, for example, I built the puppet. I did. You're gonna see my puppet right now because I have to actually make a commercial. So if you watch a YouTube channel called Floral from Under a Rock. Uh-oh, where's the rest of the face? I'm missing the face. Oh, there it is. He has a character named Wilton the Troll, and Wilton is an asshole. He literally, that's his character. He plays an asshole. And so I had some fresh tape. I put this on my head. I went, hey guys, I'm Wilton the Troll. And it doesn't look as good as it did the first time. I got to put new tape on here, but you get the idea. If you tape it on just right and it lines up, it looks like the mouth is moving. And then I need to add some fangs, although I don't know how I'm going to add tusks to the bottom because the tusks are going to bump into the top. But this was my mask version of Wilton. And when I sent him, he goes, can you make a commercial where Wilton is talking to Punkwaddle being the penguin? And, you know, so got to work on that at some point. But let's turn on this chroma key so we can restore the illusion that I'm in a concrete bunker. Cool. I don't know why that's cool. Dude, I just got fined for something on the good first. Okay, let's see. First, let's see here. Yeah, dude, I just got fined for something on the first day. I told the owner, dude, you're in house security. Guy got from huffing something in dry storage. Good luck with that. Oh, dude, I got fined for something. Oh, you didn't get fined for that, did you? Or a dude got fined for something on the first day. Anyway, it's used mostly for cars, but I suppose you could make a little one like a sandblasting. Yeah, I think you could probably make it like a sandblasting cabinet or something like that. Exactly. I know you're saying like the big ones would be for cars, but you could probably build a small scale one like similar to a sandblasting cabinet, which is funny. I actually know what they look like. I was researching them at some point a few months back. But yo, Bucky, it was good seeing you. Thanks for dropping by. I need to try some things to get done for tomorrow when it's not raining. And I appreciate Bucky for, you know, dropping by. That was really nice talking to Bucky today. So if you're still here, thanks for dropping by, Bucky. And if not, I still appreciate you being here. I got to replace my camera. I got some serious metal fatigue up here. Ass Lee. Dennis Leary. So, I got fired first day. Huh. I want to see how. Oh, God, that metal fatigue is bad. Oh, shit. Oh, God. Oh boy, that's bad. There's like no material left here. It's a minor miracle this thing hasn't snapped off yet. I might actually be able to jury rig something. So this piece here, oh, metal fatigued to hell. But I might be able to do something to fix that. Oh God. Okay, just lean on it, lean on it, lean on it. All right. I gotta be real careful. When I grab this thing, I gotta grab the joint now and just like keep that. Oh God. That's bad. So this was the one that I really want to work on, but yeah, Dennis Leary is a funny motherfucker. So this is one of my favorite all-time Gundam models, and you can see I already attached one of the arms, and so this one's a bit more intricate. And you know, you can see we got the top of the Gundam, you got the chest, you got the V because it's a Victory 2 Gundam, right? So you got a V-shaped. Normally it looks something like that, so it looks like a V. You got some thrust or exhaust nozzles back here. So it can close up, they can open up. It's got a fighter plane in here. Did I build the fighter plane? No, I did not build the fighter plane yet. But essentially, it's like a transformer. And so this can eject the cockpit into that. So at that point, yeah, the V shape would move into the back and become your thrusters. You got some thrust vectoring. But yeah, I forgot. I didn't know I got that far with building it. I can't believe I actually have arm. I have an arm on here. And did I build a leg? I might have built a leg. Now, oh yeah, I did build a leg. I built 2.5 legs. Oh, and I built the other arm, part of the other arm too. See, that's like I left it off on this like a week ago. See that leg right there? The legs on that. But it reeked in dry storage like the dew was huffing every marks a lie and every other solvent known. So anyway, what I learned about sniffing solvents today was insane. So I was learning about, I was watching a YouTube channel called Asianometry, and he talked about the microprocessor industry and stuff like that. And he was talking about how like someone in the comments mentioned that so he did a video about methamphetamines after the war. So there was actually a meth panic at the end of the war after World War II, and it was because like there was military companies. There were companies that were selling amphetamines to the military, but after the war they were selling the public, you know, to help with their productivity, and it didn't so much help the productivity, but it caused a lot of problems. So they had to like address those systemic problems. And then some guy in the comments mentioned that he went to University of Tokyo in the 70s and there were plastic bags all over the ground. And the reason was, it turned out was that basically you could buy paint thinner for like really cheap. So you buy a can of paint thinner, you huff the fumes from that and you get fucked up, right? So then the Yakuza or the gangs, they figured out that if you buy the paint thinner in the store and you put it into smaller cans and charge more for it, make a lot of money off of it. So that's what the gangs started doing. So these college kids are buying fucking like little cans of Huff and Puff juice, and so they're using these plastic bags, I guess, to trap the fumes and like go, and they're littering the campus, the Tokyo campus, with these fucking plastic bags, and I just thought it was kind of crazy. My question is like, does it even have the same effect as drugs, or is it just killing brain cells? Like, are you getting a buzz from killing brain cells, or like is it actually like releasing dopamine or something? You know, like that's what I want to know. That's, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that's why I'm working on a Zaku, because this, I want to put more love into it. I don't want to do a half-assed job on this at all. In fact, wait, did I forget to sand this area? I might have forgot to sand this area here. But I want to put more love into the Victory Gundam because it's one of my favorite Gundams. Yeah, I think I got to resand this area still. I got some glue over here. And it's just surprisingly time consuming. Like, you gotta, you know, assemble the internal structure, and then you gotta put pieces on pieces. And so the cool thing about this type of Gundam model is you don't even have to paint it. You could paint it. Painting it helps. There's certain areas where it'll serve you better to paint it than other areas. I have a box of Gundam markers somewhere here. They might be in this desk. I don't know. I can't open my desk any more than I've already opened it. Where did I put my... Oh, God. Oh, my green screen's falling down. How much... Oh, my green screen barely fell down. Look at that. You can't... My wall is green. So you can't see that my green screen fell, but you can see that I got a picture of Londo from Babylon 5, like right up here. So this picture is actually a real printout on a green wall. This picture is like a fake picture, like right here. An old employer, as JLM says, an old employer used massive amounts of mineral spirits to clean machines. You catch a buzz, but it's a worse buzz than even drinking. Yeah, I would bet, like, I mean, I don't know if that gives you a hangover, but I would bet you it'd give you one heck of a hangover, you know? I'm just gonna play a clip. So it is a clip from Victory Gundam, the cartoon which this model kit originated from, while I fix my wall. Hey, Londo. That's interesting. I recall going home and soaking a couple of hours in the bath to try and feel better. Yeah, I mean, I think there's times you gotta wear like a respirator when you can, or have some form of PPE, BYO PPE, you know? Unfortunately, the employees don't provide PPE when every time needed. And, you know, I'd imagine that cleaning the machines of mineral spirits was like not necessarily the most official protocol. But I know what a feeling. I've had that happen where like something messes me up. And you just want to shake it and you can't. You're like, I just feel fucked up and I can't shake this sensation. So we're gonna up our way to what, I don't know, 2,000 grit sandpaper now. Now you can see this area is sanded roughly. I'm missing like a bunch of, I don't know why I'm missing a bunch of the sandpapers like right now, all of a sudden. But wait, there we go. Okay, it's 3,000 grit. I thought I had a 5,000 grit. Like, I'm absolutely confused, but looks like I'm going to go straight from 3,000 to 7,000 grit. That wasn't my intent, but usually you do these at a progressive increase. I mean, like maybe 30 gallons of stuff, at least the doors were open. At least the doors were open. I wonder what kind of machines you would use mineral spirits to clean. I did buy some mineral spirits for my my airbrush gun. And when I did some research, I found out mineral spirits could be used for cleaning or for thinning the paint or something like that. And in a way that was kind of cool because it was a good way to save money. So instead of buying like the high-end airbrush thinner, you could buy some cheap stuff. A big tin can of mineral spirits. I'm like, hell yeah. OSHA probably did stop them. You're probably right. I think OSHA stopped them. Yeah, I can see that happening eventually, right? So I'm not going to be all OCD about this, but I'm just kind of gently sanding this. Why is my computer making so much noise all of a sudden? Zep water, because they switched to Zep water degreaser. Interesting. But yeah, so that fighter plane is actually the cockpit of a Gundam. It sort of transforms and then docks with the rest of the Gundam. Oh, that's cool. Leaky old plastic injection machines. Injection molding is interesting. I remember, you know, I mean, it's not a brand new technology, but yet it like, you know, I mean, like, I can see how like an old machine would behave differently. As I understand it, it's like it heats up the plastic, it melts the resin or whatever. It heats up and melts the resin, has like a like almost like a corkscrew thing pushing it in. Yeah, right. Literally. I mean, that's literally right. Like what makes this? And so I have an old ass model here. Can I throw some water here? So I bought this when my local comic book store was closing down many years ago in the late 90s or early 2000s. And I was like kind of excited. I got it on a discount. But man, like I don't even remember working on this, but I remember trying to assemble this in like like when I was a kid. I mean, first of all, I opened up the box and like, it's not the first time I bought a model kit and was like, what the fuck? Like this don't look like this. In fact, the movie doesn't look like this. In the movie, the color grading is a little different. I'm pretty sure it has more of a silvery color to it, but okay, whatever. I guess they decided to take some, you know, liberty on the box. They probably wanted to make the color temperature warmer so that people wouldn't be as disappointed when they looked at this shit. But I think I actually tried gluing some parts together using like whatever model glue I had at the time. So you can see like, or did I even use model glue? I don't even know. Did I tape it together? I don't know. There's some like stuff here that doesn't look right, you know? Okay, that's one warp nacelle. And I think I might have even gotten as far as gluing it to this at some point. Yeah, I see some shit over here. So at some point I tried to glue it. Maybe I improvised and didn't use the right glue. But anyway, bottom line is that I don't even know what I did back then. I haven't touched this since I grew up. Oh, I see. One of these goes on the left side, so they molded the plastic so that you don't do the wrong side. So I must have tried. Oh, I think I tried using Elmer's glue. I might have actually tried using Elmer's glue to glue this together. I must have ran out of model glue because I only had one thing of model glue for like all my childhood, basically. And I tried to use this to glue Elmer's glue, and I gave up on it pretty quickly. This might be held on by, this might all be Elmer's glue. Oh my God, what a disaster. So anyway, I would have resumed working on this today. Not today, but like in modern day. Okay, I mean, it basically, oh God, it keeps falling off. But anyway, I'm just trying to hold it together long enough to show you. So there we go. So this piece docks like that, I think. And then, I don't know what's going, I think this is the bottom. Oh, of course, it's got decals. It really has decals in here. So I don't know what the hell happened to the right side warp nail. So I don't know if I have it in a different room, if it's laying around somewhere, or if it's just lost. But as I understand it, this shit's supposed to dock on here, and then when it gets near the Enterprise, it, flips over, and then the docking port lines up with the back of the ship. And then these water slide decals could be used for, making shit happen. Okay, that's cool. There's some fine detailed parts that I got stuck in the side of the box just now. So I'm sure like the manual tells you what goes where. So I bet you this goes like on the back of something, like this is a back window or some shit like that. But I don't know if I'm missing a bunch of pieces or if they never came with a bunch of pieces. I honestly don't know. But just the color of this plastic looks like the 70s. It looks like it came off a machine built in the 70s. That's why I'm showing you this. I'm just taking a guess as to what goes where. Oh yeah, look at that. It snaps together basically, and you can glue it if you want. I could probably use paint or thin cement to melt it together. So you got the top and the bottom of this part. I don't know if this part is even assembled correctly. It looks about right, but I don't see how this part is supposed to line up with the top of the ship, really. It just doesn't even mesh together. So I'm a little confused about that. But I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know if it was missing parts when I bought it, but it has decals. So I know at least it has the decals that go here and here. I can actually look at the picture to see where those little windows go. Oh yeah, I see where those details go on the side of the warp engine pylons. But if I want, maybe I'll buy one on Amazon, eBay, just to like try to, achieve a childhood dream of finishing this. I think the stand, I have the stand, I glued the stand together a long time ago. It's in a different room right now. Or you could hang it. Thread not included, so you can hang it from your ceiling if you want. That's kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know how this part of the ship is supposed to dock with the rest of the warp engines. That doesn't... Oh, I see. There's a piece that... Okay, that piece has to be glued on. And, like, it's not really easy to make a reverse mold, but it is theoretically possible to make a mold of the warp engine that I have and flip it over, but it's a little tricky. But I don't even know if this ever came with all of the parts, or if I don't know. Yeah, I might have them in a different area, and I might not. If I ever want to build this, I'd start from scratch. I'm not that interested in it, but I mean, at this point, I'm kind of curious. Let's get back to chat here. Okay, so we got that corkscrew inside of a high temperature barrel. Indeed. I guess the F-15 model, I looked at all those parts. Oh, you got an F-15 model, and you looked at all of those parts, closed the box, and said that was a bad idea. Now, tell me something. Did that F-15 fighter model, did that have like parts that were painted, or were the parts like one color? Like, because that's like always annoying too. Like when, like I said, this example here, I bought an Enterprise model as a kid. And I found out after the fact that there was a water slide decal that you were supposed to put in before you assembled it. And, at that point, it was like too late. I already glued it together. And it was like it was like a 3D cutaway model of the entire Enterprise. So it's like, I never put, and now I'd have to paint every detail by hand, which could be a bit more time consuming, of course. F-15 model, it looked like that. The box was the size of a record player with the dust cover on it. The decals, those decals are tricky. Yeah, they are tricky. They are very easy to mess up. Frankly, they should include like extra decals when you're getting water slide. And like, good news, I can print my own. I can print my own water slide decals now. I bought paper to make my own water slide decals. I bought it for my turtle tank back when I kept them in a glass aquarium. Now I keep them in a large tank. But back when I kept my turtles in a glass aquarium, I bought water slide decals for that. I wanted to make it look like some shit from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Oh, I got tape on my face. And so, yeah, like, but I can use them other things. I did. I printed out some shit on water slide decals and I put them on my mom's china closet just to see what would happen. they kind of worked. And at least I can print out new ones if I mess up. The Gundam models usually come with actual decals. Now, water slide decals are theoretically better. But, you know, pros and cons to everything. The plastic, that plastic is difficult to injection mold. Also, interesting. It was completely bare plastic. Everything had to be cut from the runners. Cold, not great. Maybe a hairdryer would help. Interesting. So yeah, that's the thing. So I think with the like I was showing Bucky's crafting before, I had to cut a piece off this, you know, these runners here. And so the way I did it was I let me just remove the piece that I just attached there. I don't know if you were here at the time, but essentially, like, I don't know, maybe that's an interesting idea. Warm water, maybe that could help. But essentially, when I first used the Tamiya cutters, I was flush cutting everything like directly like this. Like I was going like directly to the model. But then I found out that like when you cut it like that, the runner puts pressure on it and it creates a stress mark. So then I came to learn that you actually want to leave the nub sticking out. Like I'm doing now. I'm cutting away from the model. So now with this nub remaining, I could use the cutters I had, but these cost more, so these should be better, right? They always say more expensive is better, something like that. So these here, I'm going to do it here because it's a flat piece. See, relatively clean, no stress mark. I just sand it off and I should be in pretty good shape right there. Round piece is a little bit trickier in my opinion, but it's not the end of the world. You just get it more or less lined up. That one's better than the one I did before. The one I did before came out a little bit less good. That one came out pretty decent, actually. That one won't require a lot of work. And then internal parts, you don't usually have to do that much work. This one's not an internal part, so I do have to do a good job on this one. But that one's gonna need a little love. No big deal. But yeah, I can see that F-15 would have been something scary to approach. I don't doubt it for a second. Now, this one I'm not going to fully assemble. Now, a lot of Gundam models, you don't actually have to glue them together at all. But, like I said, the glue starts to become popular when you're painting them or you're trying to do a perfect job and eliminate the seams or the panel lines. In fact, I think when you're painting them, you can hide the panel lines. But, yeah, like, me personally, I use the glue just to hide the panel lines right now. That's 90% of what I use it for. And if there's, like, a mistake or an issue, I could use the glue to fix that mistake as well. There we go. So these would snap together, and these wouldn't need glue, but like no matter what you do to press them together, you're gonna have a seam. And so using that glue definitely will help to melt the plastic, or almost like welding it together. Man, it's just crazy to open that F-15 model, find out it's completely bare plastic. It's one thing to cut it from the runners, but at least with Gundam models, like the Gundam Victory Gundam I showed you a little earlier, it has like 4 different colors in there. Like, so this Zaku misrepresents itself. Like, it's all green. Every fucking thing is green. I don't even think this comes with the red decal for the eyeball. I mean, I'll just have to paint it, which is not a big issue for me. Although it might have it. I don't know. I gotta double check. I don't remember there being any. No, there's no decals in that box. This one, it's like everything you see in the picture is part of the model. Like this one here is honest. And don't get me wrong, some people do paint them. I actually have red Gundam markers and golden Gundam markers for the antennas. I do have Gundam markers, blue ones too, to make the blue look better. I did paint one of the legs blue, I think. I painted something blue as an experiment. But generally, I find Gundam markers are good on small details and not so good on large details. On larger details, they get a little blotchy, you know? And that's like one issue I encountered the first time I used them, thinking that I can use them in place of normal paint. Oh, cool. You say I was working on bicycles and motorcycles and cars already. I didn't want to sink time into modeling. Yeah, I dig that. If you're already working, you could do a lot of things with motorcycles and bikes. I have a bicycle. I really like my bicycle. It's my main mode of transportation. It's a specialized rock hopper 29er, a little bit of a heavy bike. So I have an old Sonata road bike that I still have to. I got to now replace. I had a spoke snap on it because it was an old ass bike. But when I replaced the tires on, I put good tires on that shit. Could run them at 90 psi. Man, that Sonata road bike was a real beauty to ride. Oh my god, it was a hell of a cruiser. But I didn't want to break any more spokes on it until I could figure out how to replace the nipple nut or get an entirely replacement. Replace the entire rim, which I don't even know if I can get a matching rim that matches the, gears on the back of it, or if I could put my, cassette, which is the rear cassette into a different rim or something like that. But like, yeah, I gotta at some point post onto like Bike Wrench, one of the bike forums, and get some input on what my next step should be. But I would love to bring that bike back up to snuff because it was a nice cruiser bike. It really was. I think most models are ethylene plastic. Excuse me. I don't know why I caught the yawns all of a sudden. I'm not even tired. I think most models are ethylene plastic. Not purchasing the machine at shutdown causes a huge bill for the shop. Interesting. Very interesting. I want to upgrade the shocks on my old Cannondale. I put that Fox shock on a cheap Huffy. So you know what I did? Mine came with like I think Sun Tour or like some kind of like like entry level like front suspension. And I looked into it. They were cheap enough to replace because eventually after riding that bike for like 3 years, rain and shine year round to and from work. At the time when I was working at Best Buy, I rode my bike like 3.6 miles a day. And basically it's like a spring. It springs with elastomer slugs. And elastomer slugs are like I guess like a rubbery material or something like that. And like, just this was not something that would last forever. Especially in the wintertime, like the bike is in New York. In New York, they spray salt all over the fucking streets to melt the ice. And so getting inside the bike suspension probably didn't do any good. Having frozen water inside the suspension probably didn't do any good for it. So anyway, I knew I had to replace the suspension, and I saw a brand called Öhlins. I think it was a German company or some shit, or a Swedish company, Öhlins. I misread the price. Then I realized it wasn't $180. Like it was like $1,080. And these were like really good shock absorbers. Like they had like 5 different modes, I think, on them of tension or compression on them, and they were really good. But the problem with the Öhlins shocks were they were still expensive, and I was worried that spending that much money, if I didn't really need them, I would end up damaging them from not making good use of them. And the winter and all of that would mess them up and all of this shit. And because I remember a while back when I first got the bike, I looked into how to service. In fact, before I bought my bike, I looked into how to service the shocks. And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, you flush it out with some hydraulic fluid, and you do this and you do that." And I realized that I had like a really shitty bike I bought from some random guy, and those shock absorbers didn't work like that at all. Like, they're just like they were more like a gimmick. The ones on the rock hopper were more real, but they were also like kind of a joke as far as suspension goes. So what was my solution? I went to a website called Soma Fab. It's some company in San Francisco. It's amazing that they can manufacture good goods out of a city that has people shitting all over the street. But these guys did a pretty good job. And for some reason, wait, I misspelled that. Okay, good. Good, here it is. And basically I looked up like the forks. Here we go. So I ended up going with like instead of getting a suspension fork, I picked up a rigid steel fork. And I don't remember which one I bought, but it was compatible with my bike. It had a pretty like significant rake on it. It also had support for hydraulic disc brakes. I want to say mine was like one of these. It might have been that one actually. I guess this was the one I bought. It looks like the most compatible one. Yeah, I think I bought this one here. And there's some flexibility to the material, but it's also not like, you know, it's not a suspension fork. I had to hacksaw the top over here in order to, so it was too long, which was expected. So I had to like measure it, hacksaw or saw off the top. And then once I did that, I was able to get it in there, put a new lock nut or whatever you call it, what do they call it? It wasn't a lock nut, but it was like a stem nut or some shit like that. And then, I mount my my caliper, my my brake pads or whatever calipers over here, and run the cable or run the fluid line over here. Put my tire here with the axle, and then run the, what do you call that shit? The quick release skewer, because my mountain bike has quick release skewers for the tires, which is really convenient. That's interesting. Olin's, they made shocks for dirt bikes first, I believe. Interesting, JLM. There's a few online stores that sell bicycle parts for reasonable prices. Bike Nash Bar. Interesting. Hey, what up, Slim Nim? Always ready to play a video and board game, make a model and radio triangulate a star all at the same time. Nah, I can't do any triangulating stars tonight because we got clouds in the air. But yo, just now I got a serious wind gust. I got to listen to the air. It sounds beautiful. I don't know why it got mad noisy outside right now. Like it sounds like the wind, like in the forest. It's actually very pleasant sounding, and the wind must be coming from. Hey Google, what's the wind direction? The wind is presently blowing from the east at 6 miles per hour. Oh, it's raining. That's not the wind. That's the rain. Oh, it sounds beautiful. The rain sounds fucking lovely right now. Wait, can I hear crickets? All right. I don't know if I can hear any crickets. If you could hear crickets on the stream earlier, let me know. I'm curious because I'm actually trying to figure out on what day of October the crickets stop chirping. Because they've been chirping up until 2 days ago. I could hear the freaking crickets chirping. So yeah, so anyway, so you're saying that you recommend some suppliers, online stores that sell parts at reasonable price points. And that's cool because I mean, like I did business with, who did I did business with? I did business with a couple of sites like Performance Bike. They have their own like cheap tire knockoff brand that's not bad. I bought some WTP tires as well. Yeah, that's the key, right? There are a few more that aren't Amazon. That's the key word, right? Like not Amazon, right? Like let's not like put everyone, let's not put the small guys out of business by going to Amazon for every fucking thing. Am I right? Wow, that's interesting. Slimming says, I had a cricket outside my door last night and it was crazy loud. Yeah, I mean, like I got like, a lot of crickets in the backyard near my telescope, and they get pretty loud. And like, I'm like saying that we're getting into like the autumn pretty much. We are technically in autumn, I think. So it's like they gotta stop. Somebody's gotta give. They gotta stop at some point. Maybe this rain will slow the crickets down because I mean they can't do it forever, right? So I found my Gundam markers here, and so I was thinking about using the green one to paint the golden antenna on the Gundam. But for now, I just show you we do it the silver one, because remember this Zaku here. Now I actually have somewhere laying around a set of markers for the Xeon stuff, but I don't know what the fuck it is. I'm probably gonna have to order another one for the bad guys. So you got the good guys. I mean, there's not really good guys and bad guys in Gundam. It kind of like is a thinking anime, but I say the Gundam is part of the good guys, depending on who you ask. So I say the people on the Earth Federation side are the good guys, and the guys on this side are the bad guys. Although I tell you, they get you thinking when you watch Gundam and you watch it episode by episode. You start to question that. Cool. Well, I'm glad that you are familiar with Performance Bike, because that tells me that at least I'm doing business with a reputable outfit. There we go. Look at that. I could put that little card there so you guys could read the chat. That rain sounds nice today. It sounds like when I go camping. So there's two ways to go about this. You can just dab the paint on in globules and then brush it. I don't know if that's proper or not, but we could try that just for fun. Before we do that, I should probably clean my paintbrush with some 99% alcohol or something. Technically, I should probably use paint thinner. But since I don't have paint thinner, we're going to use 99% alcohol. Uh-oh. Oh, there it is. All right, well, it doesn't look like it's working. It'll have to do. Should I paint the bottom of the foot first to see how well I can do it? Nah, let's just paint the thing. So we're going to just not paint it like the conventional way and see what the marker does. Ah. I'm trying to get more. Oh, God. Okay. I just made a mess of that. I was trying to squeeze out more paint from a paint marker, and boy, did I make a mess of that. What color are these? Okay, so I got the color there. This is cool. You can't spill it. You squeeze it to get the alcohol to come out. I may just go to the shop I bought the bike from. They charge a little more, but the installation is included. Yeah, so I like my bike shop. I liked my bike shop until I went there. The guy was trying to sell me $1,000 bike when I was not interested in buying a new bike. Like, I love my current bike. And even though, like, yeah, maybe I know my needs better than I did when I bought that bike, it's like, maybe you should have recommended the better bike when I bought the bike if the bike he's recommending now is so much better. And I went to Reddit and bitched about it, and everyone's telling me that, oh, if you're going to use the environmentally sound argument, it's actually more environmentally sound to buy a new bike. And they try to give me some bullshit argument as to why. And I just get the fuck out of here. And I should be told, I kind of enjoy doing my own bike maintenance to some extent. As long as I can get the part and I find the right part, I'm happy to do the work myself, you know? Sure, when I can't find the right part, it's a little bit like less fun, I'll admit. Huh. Super cheap drunk night, Everclear and Kool-Aid. Oh wow. Hey, is the video quality skipping, or is that just the YouTube? I'm getting a preview video on YouTube right now where my video is skipping like no tomorrow. Is that happening? I think it's working better now. My video is skipping like no tomorrow. Let me know, is that actually a thing? Is that happening? Because it's got me absolutely confused. Okay, so it seems good for you, okay? Because like I'm looking at my top screen and it was getting all choppy and looked like shit up there. And I was like, okay, well, I remember someone was having trouble restreaming the other day. So I wonder if there was like, you know, something like that going on. Whoops, did I turn this on by accident? No buffering, but I think the quality looks better. It just looks super blurry on my top screen right now, like, or it's hit and miss, but I can think of a couple of reasons why that would be. Yeah, you're right. Right now I'm using JLM. You're right. I'm using isopropyl alcohol, aka rubbing alcohol. In particular, I'm using a 99% isopropyl alcohol, which is interesting. When I cracked my phone screen, yeah, I'm gonna be spending fucking a fortune to fix this. So I discovered a crack like right over here that I didn't even know I had until like I discovered it like late. And what sucks is I cleaned my phone in the sink today. Like I rinsed my phone in the sink. If I known there was a crack like right here, I would have not have rinsed it in the sink, you know? And you could barely see a spider fracture. I think it happened after I removed the screen protector because I had a screen protector that was good. But then I changed it out for another screen protector, but water was getting trapped under the new screen protector. So when I took a shower with the phone, I had to peel the screen protector off and put paper towel between the screen protector and the screen to dry it off. And then I cracked that screen protector while doing that because the fingerprint adhesive sort of like is impossible to peel off without cracking it. And greetings to Bone. Good morning, Bone. It's good morning to you and almost bedtime for me, I guess. Normally on a work day though, I'd be up at literally getting up at exactly this time on a Sunday, Monday or Tuesday. I'm getting up like right now to get up for work to be able to get there for 7 a.m. Huh. Slim Nim, I want an old-fashioned wheel overdrive. Huh. I think they even sell. I think they don't. I don't think they even sell Cannondale bikes anymore. Specialized may be interesting. Oh yeah, like so. Specialized is a pretty nice brand. I'll say that. Taiwan. I think they're made in Taiwan too. And you know, Taiwan is like the free version of China. So you know, they're good guys, right? More or less. And granted, like yeah, they were a bit authoritarian, but you know, at least they understand that capitalism is better. So yeah, I think it's supposed to like do single passes with this Gundam marker, but what I think works is to like brush it on the paint when you can, because it can be a little tricky to like spread this paint evenly. And you should probably put some masking tape on it, like which I didn't do just now, but you could put masking tape on it if you want. It definitely makes a very nice finish when you do it the right way, but that's not too bad either. Am I supposed to be doing ASMR right now? You know, I want to get those weird ASMR microphones. You ever see the ASMR microphones where it looks like a pair of ears attached to a rubber thing? Those shits are weird. I don't do adequately well. I'm not a perfectionist in this case. So it's literally an entry grade Gundam model. They call this a first grade model. But we just want to have that darker kneecaps. I mean, that's what it looks like in the picture. You know, I mean, it's got like, look, they're falsely advertising. They're like, oh yeah, look at these colors here. Like, none of these colors exist unless you buy the Gundam paint markers or do it yourself. And I don't think this is the right color over here either, but it's close enough. I can probably do a better job with the brush strokes. Now, this type of paint you can clean it off with alcohol, but I'm not going to get OCD about it, you know? But yeah, so to fix my phone screen, we're talking about $291. I'm gonna ship it off to Samsung because I don't really trust doing it in the store. They'll probably try to sell me a new phone or come up with an excuse not to fix it or not be able to guarantee the waterproofing. And I want the phone to be waterproof after it's fixed because it's half the fun of having a modern phone. So there's a different part, and uh-oh. There's a part missing on my desk right now. It's definitely on my desk somewhere, but it is a critical part. It is the shield that goes on the shoulder. So this part here is the arm, and essentially this is how it goes on. So you see, like, the joint is here, and then the shield goes here, and then it can move the arm. It can go like that, and it's not really a good place for a shield. Like, I never understood why the Zaku's have a shield here. I guess the idea is that they turn this shoulder to one side when they're in a battle, or they use this side when they want to bust through something. Good seeing you, Slimnin. Thanks for dropping by. As Slimnin says, have a good stream. I got to hit the sack before work. I hear you. And it seems that Bone might have to be going to work. Or at least tackling a new day. I hope you're having a good day, Bone. Let's see here. Like the kind, Solex, little engines that drive the tire directly? Interesting. I forgot so much from not doing the stuffs. Brain deletes it to make room for stuff I'm doing, I guess. I guess so. And that reminds me of, before I go, the book that I was recently reading. And apparently I finished book 2 of the series. You have the integral trees and the smoke ring. And basically you have like a normal G-type star, like the sun. And then in orbit of that star, you have a neutron star, which is a very dense star, right? Strong gravity. And then in orbit of that star, you have a gas torus, almost like a donut. And in the middle of that donut, you have a smoke ring. And that's the smoke ring right over here. In fact, the neutron star is that tiny point in the middle. And then you got like smoke, gas torus. So anyway, why am I telling you this? So basically in the book, a ship approaches this and they say, okay, well, it's not a habitable planet per se, but it's a habitable area. And so they send some people in there in craft and they decide to inhabit it. And supposedly there's mutiny. So the captain of the ship is a guy named Charles Davis Kennedy, and he's a shipboard AI. He's sort of like the captain of the ship. And he's trying to radio the crew because early in the book, he's using a telescope from the ship and he's seeing like hydrogen emissions from a shuttlecraft or a cargo and repair module flying around in here being chased. And he's like saying, hey, wait, that's one of ours. It's like 500 years after the fact. So this means that generation after generation of people from the ship, now that, their descendants are living in this area. And they're leaving like logs and journals that sort of describe what it's like, and finding this place and inhabiting it. And it's like, it's not a real planet, but you could do worse for yourself. They're doing pretty well. Like the human can survive quite comfortably in here, although the birthing rates and the, infant mortality rates are still pretty high. And most of it's free fall. So it's like almost like an atmosphere, like Earth's atmosphere, but with no gravity or free fall more accurately. And they have these trees, and these trees are like floating in there. And if you live on the tree, you live on the right part of the tree, you have gravity. And that's one of the trees right over there. Do I have a better picture? Yeah, here we go. And you can see it sort of like has that, like one side swings this way, the other side swings the opposite way, because there's like a tidal force. They call it tide. I don't know if you call it gravity, but it's sort of like having gravity as you go down the tree. But if you're like up in the center of the tree, you're living in free fall. And if you don't live on a tree, you have no gravity at all. And these shuttlecraft have solar panels. They can collect water and create hydrogen using the solar panels. And that hydrogen can be burned in order to create thrust. So they figured out they can dock the CALM, cargo and repair module, with the tree. And if, let's say there's a drought and they need to move the tree somewhere else, they're able to move the tree, which is better than not being able to move the tree, like they can actually move to an area where there isn't a drought, or, where there's more food or whatever. But early in the book, you got a bunch of people going on an expedition to find like food and bring it back because they don't even have meat. They're eating the foliage, which like tastes sweet. It'll, deal with hunger, but it doesn't it's not the same as eating meat. And so anyway, the captain of the ship, Charles Davis Kennedy, he didn't forget stuff. He literally deleted his past memories to make room. So he's an AI, he's a human that was copied to a computer. And he's got a limited amount of capacity, finite capacity for memories and stuff. So he had to delete some of his memories to make room for new memories. And that's sort of what, it reminded me of what you were saying there. Now, his reasoning was partially different. Part of it was to make room for more memories, but he also deleted memories of members of the crew who mutinied on him so that he wouldn't hold it against their descendants. But throughout the book, he's trying to find a way to like get these people to rejoin civilization. And then he's realizing that there's no way this place is ever going to be turned into this civilization I'm from. And he eventually kind of comes to terms with it. Unfortunately, I fell asleep during the end of that audiobook, so I don't remember like large swaths of the book itself. But it's a cool concept. And Larry Niven's also the guy who wrote Ring World. And you might be familiar with Ring World if you if you're familiar, you're familiar. If not, I will find you a picture. Now, Ring World might ring a bell if you know about Halo, but only superficially does the Ring World have anything in common with the Halo. Because the thing about Ring World is it's a lot larger. And so I can find a good representation. So there's two things in the book Ring World that's going on. The scale is gargantuan. And got to be careful what pictures we let represent the Ring World because none of these are accurate. This one's a close replica. Here we go. This is a good example. So in this picture here, you can see a star. You can see the ring orbiting a star. And you see these like shadow squares. And so essentially that's how they're creating the day-night cycles, by casting shadows on different parts of the Ring World. And apparently that's a ship called, I forgot the name of the ship, something of Inquiry. But this ship has a hull made by aliens called a General Products Number 2 hull. And it's like a super hard material that is transparent. So you see the inside of the ship basically, and it's pretty cool. But anyway, so the Ring World is way bigger than the fucking shit from Halo. The Halo orbits a planet. The Ring World orbits the whole freaking star. And it has like basically multiple Earths worth the surface area on one ring. So that's what, kind of makes it cool. A guy in a spacesuit standing on the wall. When you live on the Ring World, it looks like an arch. So the people who live there for such a long time don't even know they're living on a ring. They just see this giant arch and like, oh yeah, you mean you got to walk towards the arch? They don't realize that's like part of a giant ring, and they got like, I don't know, floating cities there and all this crazy shit. Is that Jose Philip Farmer or somebody else? Maybe? I don't know who that is. I can Google him, but I don't think I was looking at a representation of Jose Philip Farmer, unless, of course, you were talking about the guy in a spacesuit. And I love these sci-fi book covers. Sometimes the sci-fi book covers aren't even accurate representations, but they look cool. I've been meaning to take screenshots from Babylon 5. I want to get like screenshots of all of the indoor structures. I think that's a ship going faster than light, maybe? Ah, yeah, Riker on the holodeck would write the stories. That is like a Dyson sphere, basically, or an incomplete Dyson sphere. Although a Dyson sphere would trap in too much heat to be safe. A Dyson swarm would probably be a safer bet. The hell is this? Oh yeah, this is cool. Civilization types. Type 1 is meaning you use the energy of your entire planet. Type 2, you use the energy of an entire star. That's why you see it, instead of a Dyson sphere, it's a Dyson swarm in this picture. Type 3, you can use all of the energy of the galaxy. Type 4, who the hell can use that much energy? Type 5, multiverse. Okay, now we're going into the bullshit realm. Who wrote the stories, I mean? Ah. Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm not terribly tired, but I should go to sleep and try to fall asleep. Maybe eat a CBD gummy to knock me on my ass. Um, but yeah, so Joseph Philip Farmer, we get a picture of his books. That is not him. Oh, Jose. Oh, we're getting warmer. He wrote the Farmer Centennial Collection, which I'm going to guess is not a sci-fi series. Then again, that looks like a sci-fi book cover. Oh yeah, winner of the Hugo Award. Probably a sci-fi author. That means I could probably get audiobooks and not have to go through the trouble of reading the friggin' books, which is pretty cool. To your scattered bodies go. Huh. What would aliens think if a star simply vanished? Well, funny you mentioned that. Funny you mentioned that. What would aliens think if a star simply vanished? Would they investigate? Well, there's a book where they explore this. How was it called? Hamilton book sci-fi. I forgot the name of the book. It's gonna come to me right now. Peter F. Hamilton. Yeah, that's this motherfucker. And the book I read was Pandora's Star. And basically, like, that's what happens in this book. A planet, like some astronomer on Earth, isn't even recording the event when it happens, but a star basically blinks out, and there's a big mystery about it. Right? Is that the name of the star? Is that the second book? Yeah, okay, so I think it's the first book. And no idea why the star disappears, but then some guy invents technology like equivalent to stargates or portals that let you appear on different planets, and we colonize different Earth-like worlds, and they can even run trains, diesel locomotives from planet to planet using these portals, to connect, to planets for instantaneous travel. And so now the cool thing is that since this portal lets you exceed or bypass the speed of light, the cosmic speed limit, they're able to like repeat the readings, except this time the guy has everything. He's got the telescope, he's got a data recorder, he's got like a automatic data backup payment schedule so that basically if his computer goes down, the data is instantly backed up to somewhere else, and it's certified as legitimate data, so nobody could dispute his findings. He captures like the event of the star disappearing. It's essentially like all you got to do is go to a closer planet. So at this point, they got like tier 1, tier 2, tier 2, and tier 3. Basically, like the first colonization group. Then they colonized planets that were further away. Because I think every time you want to colonize new worlds, you got to fly to the new world for the first time, drop the portal off on that planet, and then you can appear on that planet. So it might take you 10 years to fly out this far, put a portal down on the planets. Once you have the portal there, you're setting up some civilizations. And then you can fly out that much further. You can go, once again, take another 10-year journey. So what would have taken 20 years only takes another 10 years to fly out because you already have your portals established. So over the course of a century or however long, they're able to now get to like level to tier 3, a third set of worlds. And because that third group of worlds is barely colonized, that's one thing, but it also means that those planets are closer to that star that disappeared for no good reason. And so the guy could take pictures of it as it's disappearing. And eventually they invent something like a hyperdrive so they can fly out to that planet, and it ends up starting a fucking war. And I'm only on book 2 or 3, and the war has only begun. But yeah, so anyway, thing with that, I don't want to hold anyone up. I think it is a good time to get ready for bed or get ready for work, depending on what people got to do. I'd be tempted to keep sanding my Gundam, but I should probably get myself to bed. I've yawned like 5 times during this stream here. So with that being said, I do want to give a shout out to Bone, JLM, Real Wade Gaming Clips. If you're not subscribed to Real Wade Gaming Clips, I do recommend you consider subscribing to him. I'll even leave a link down here. And that's, he dropped by early in the stream. But what happened was, if I have this window behind another window, if it's not the main window, I don't get updates on my screen. So apparently you have to have the window in the front or in full screen on its own monitor in order for it to actually update, you know, on the top left corner like it did before. And so, yeah, anyway, that's just something interesting to kind of share in case anybody uses OBS in the same manner. And yeah, let's see what Peter F. Hamilton books I have, because I think I'm going to buy me what might get me an audio book maybe. Let's see. I'm going to sign in my Audible account real quick. You know, I want to read a book before bed if I can't sleep. See, right now, the chat window is not in the front, so I can't even see it right now. But yeah, so anyway, we click on the Commonwealth Saga is the series of books, and we scroll down, and apparently I didn't even finish this book yet, so I could resume. I think I just got bored of the series at some point, and I think that shows in the reviews because you see it's got like 4.5 stars on 4 stars. This wasn't bad. Second book gets better at 4.5 stars, and then the third book is like, you know, 4.5, 3.5 stars. So you see, it kind of went downhill a little bit. Also, it should be noted, this book is like 12 hours, so it's amazing. I got through a fucking 40-hour book, but I couldn't be troubled to finish a 12-hour book by comparison. Had no idea the first 2 books were this freaking long. It must have been good if I didn't notice. But anyway, I'm going to go and wrap it up now. So anyway, once again, thank you JLM for dropping in. Thank you Slimnim for dropping in. Thank you Bone. Thank you Real Weird Gaming Clips. I'm also glad to have seen Bucky's Crafting here today. And also Uki Spooky. I'm not even kidding, that's a real name. Uki Spooky Outside Occult October Odyssey. I love this guy's name. They're the best. He's actually my only mod right now. If anybody wants to be a mod, I'm taking applications. But, you know, no pressure. So anyway, with that being said, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave a comment. Please like and subscribe. And for now, we